Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar. This one is going to be on how to create your own PR. I think this is a question I often get asked because PR is a topic of conversation that it's often really hard to harness yourself and actually do right. So this is going to give you a bit of breadth on what PR is, how you can utilize PR for your business. Again, a lot of information in a short period of time. But I think this will give you really good scope. If you're a small business owner in the Triple R network, you're going to get a lot out of this. So let's go on to the next one. So this is a great one by Bill Gates. If I was down to my last dollar, I would spend it on PR. I think PR is a really underutilized space. It's something that is really important, and it's something that can be really leveraged to actually create a really, really great strategy for your business. So what's PR? Well, PR is the activity or job of providing information about a particular person or organization to the public so people will regard that person or organization in a favorable way. So it's basically the relationship between an organization and the public. There is no one better to talk about you than your brand. You are your brand spokesperson. You live, breathe, and you are it every single day. And it's an absolutely essential tool to selling your brand and to creating more awareness for your brand. You know, that elevator pitch that everyone talks about, they're always banging on about, and it's always so important. It's going to show you really how important it is to craft a buzzy, media-friendly pitch that's informative to get your point across, that actually shows people what they're getting for the money that they're spending on your product or service. You already have all the knowledge that's needed. All we're going to do here today is give you that information that really gives you the scope of how to create a strategy, what the types of PR are, how to pitch, and what actually is a media release, and how to develop your own. So the 7 types of PR. PR is used to help organizations cultivate a great relationship with its public and maintaining positive relationships with stakeholders. This is crucial to be successful for an organization. If the public perceive a company in negative ways, then people will look elsewhere and avoid your product or service. Public relations professionals like myself are experienced in communicating a huge variety of different messages to organizations and people on behalf of your organization. This gives you scope. But today we're going to dive into those types of media, and we're going to actually say how you can develop this PR on your own. So here's the 7 types of PR. Firstly, strategic communications. Every action that is undertaken by a PR professional should fall under strategic communications. This is essentially meaning that PR efforts are coordinated to help a company achieve its business objectives. Understanding an organization's priority from an outset is a must. The communication objectives and subsequent activities established are always prioritized to have a good outgoing achievement. Media relations. A good working relationship with the media is needed in order to spread your key messages to your target audience. It is really important that you put your company in the spotlight, sending press releases, pitching interviews into media outlets. This enables companies to reach their desired outcome and, most importantly, their target audience. Journalists need consistent streams of news to fill their pages and airways. So creating compelling news stories for media involving the organization and looking for media exposure is a win-win for both. Community relations. While the media is an important outlet for PR professionals, sometimes it is effective means of communication is directly engagement with the consumer, community, and audience. This is great when a blog comes into use, social media, engagement with the community in which an organization can operate should work in 2 ways. For example, when a business opens a new facility, getting feedback from the local community is just as important as highlighting the benefits on the local economy. Good listening and the ability to coordinate events are essential. Internal communications. Internal comms is quickly becoming a major area for PR. Employees can be seeing within bigger companies the appointment and focus of advocating and critical appointment of feedback through in a business, which can actually see more employees being satisfied, motivated, and loyal because they're actually achieving more results within the business. Developing ongoing programs to keep staff engaged and informed while understanding their needs and concerns is really the adaptation of finding challenges within a company and pursuing that internal communications, professional relationships, and allows for the outgoing of achievement within the business. Crisis communications. Crisis comms is something that we don't often talk about, but it can be popular. Contrary to a popular opinion, the communications team shouldn't just be brought in when a crisis occurs because it's often too late. Organizations should take a planned and consistent approach to crisis management with clear crisis communications plans in place and strong relationships with both stakeholders and media to build up over time, which can be relied on to see achievement of results within the business. This makes crisis comms a rewarding and valuable area, as well as just being challenging, overcoming a lot of potential disappointments within the business. Public affairs. For those who work in public affairs or lobbying are often in building and development relations between an organization and politics, government, and other decision makers. It is a relatively distinct subset within PR, and those working within the field have a keen interest in political systems and the process of an active legislative change. They can also add incredible value by providing assistance to organizations in areas such as regulatory compliance, corporate communications, and trade association. This is definitely an area that's not going to be so focused on for you guys, but it's an area that I still like to bring up and make a point of. Then there's online social media and communication. In today's world of instant communication, where we can put up a tweet in 5 seconds, it is so essential that businesses propose a strong online presence. So if you are not on social and you don't have an online presence, it's 2021, almost 2022. There's honestly no excuse. Customers are so increasingly turning to the web for their own research and development, making it such an imperative point of purchasing decision. So online PR has become hugely important for generating leads, building brand relationships with blogs and social media, and attracting new talent. Both organization and PR pros must become an adaptive in choosing the best social media platforms and other digital channels to achieve their communication objectives. As a profession, public relations offers an increasing array of professional opportunity, which can be broken down into different types and categories. However, there are underlying PR skills which can be required across the spectrum for a PR professional. For businesses to consider how important PR works, they should see what their ongoing communications objectives are and then delve into their PR strategy from there, which is where we get into creating a PR strategy. Most likely that you have thought about how you're wanting to get out into an audience. You're really strong on who you are and what you're doing, but you're really struggling when it comes to actually getting out there and delivering those results. To create our long-term PR result, the most important first step is to develop your PR strategy. A PR strategy will help you organize your PR activities and make strategic decisions around the best way to communicate. It will also help you to use your stories with your business to draw in your target audience, as well as increase your profile and build awareness. To get started with your PR strategy, you need to do the following. Determine your goals and objectives. When it comes to your PR strategy, it's important to outline your goals and objectives for what you're wanting to achieve. For example, you may want to launch a new service for your business and raise awareness of your market, or you may want to propose a new product that is a leader in its different category within the business. You make sure that your goals are SMART goals, so they need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. By determining your goals, you'll have clear purpose on which your PR strategy will occur, and this will maximize the scope in which the success of your PR activities can be. The second one, and probably one of the, if not the most important thing, which I have talked about in depth in a couple of other webinars, is your target audience. These are the individuals, groups, and communities that have influenced and have the decision-making power over your products and services. They are the ones you are trying to influence, and they're really important that you do, as you're wanting to attract and to sell to these people. They are the people you want to communicate with. You can find your target audience by thinking about who would be interested in hearing about your business. Who are the key decision makers? Who have the greatest impact on your business's outcome? And who will take action and actually purchase your product or service? Once you've identified your target audience, research their behaviors, such as what publications they have read and how they consume the media. By defining your audience, understanding their psychology, and really tailoring your communication to suit your business's behavior, you endeavor to have an effective PR strategy. Key messaging. Key messages are absolutely the core part of a target audience. They must be heard and they must be remembered. They are an important part of the PR strategy because they can shape your content and communicate an unidentified message. You can include key messages in your written, spoken communication to convey a specific message by your business's target audience. The best key messages are absolutely believable, easy to understand, distinctive, credible, succinct, and drive your agenda. For example, a key message for a business may be insert business name, is a leader in the industry, insert your industry, by always staying on top of industry trends to produce cutting edge products. Remember that one. Then you will have your tactics. Tactics are the activities that will help you achieve your PR objectives. If you use the example of raising awareness of a new business service, one tactic may be distributing a media release. This will be sent to a publication relevant to your industry and target audience with the goal of securing an article about your new service. Other tactical responses include email newsletters, social media campaigns, blogs, public speaking, pitching interesting stories about your business to journalists. A great place to start is to make a list of the type of publications your audience reads, the events that they go to, and how they spend their time online. This will be a guide to create tactics that can be successful and that work for your business. Don't worry, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about this a little bit further on. Timeline. You should put a timeline together around each tactic to ensure they are completed in a timely manner. For example, you should create an action plan which details the PR activities for a particular month, who will complete them, and when you will start these activities and when the deadline is completed. A PR strategy will be a detailed timeline, which can help you to organize your workload, ensure accountability, and make sure that you don't forget to complete a task. Measuring your success. It is so important for the success of PR strategies that you create your own achievable tools and set key performance indicators or KPIs around what you're wanting to achieve. You should also measure your success by whether you achieve your goals in a set time frame. By monitoring your success, you can determine whether your PR activities are working and discovered in the area you need to improve on. It is a great idea to regularly review your PR strategy to ensure that it's working effectively. I would suggest every other week or at least once a month, depending on how long your strategy is. A PR strategy enables you to consider every aspect of communication, especially when it comes to a specific message, to make sure that you're actually maximizing the potential of your product, service, or what you're delivering. It will also help you with the success and efforts to grow your business. Media relations. Simply put, media pitching is an attempt to get a journalist/editor or media outlet interested in your news so that they have something that they want to cover. Almost always, a media pitch is done by email, but it's also possible to do by social platform, telephone, and traditional mail. So let's talk about media relations and media pitching in depth. We're going to talk really, really in depth about this because this is somewhere you can totally hack your own PR. And I so believe in this. So the first thing you want to do is identify your brand's hook. So you've done the hard part and you've got your brand. Now we need to find an interesting media hook or angle that will make your business really newsworthy. We want to make sure that the purpose and messaging behind your brand or business is interesting for the general public, specifically your target market. Be clear on who you are as a business, how your business is being described, your target market, your speciality, and how you can be interesting to the masses. For example, if you're a female founder, angles around female empowerment, female entrepreneurship. Are you launching a new product that's groundbreaking or innovative? Natural beauty brand equals rising clean beauty trends, etc. Really looking at your hook and how you're different and unique from every other business. Then you want to look at your unique selling point. You need to ensure that your overarching social topic or story behind your brand is quite broad to ensure that you don't pigeonhole yourself. Yes, you want to appear to your target audience, but you also want to reach people a little bit beyond your target demographic. This will ensure that you start to gain credibility and increase awareness around your brand so that you have mass appeal, and it's absolutely essential to be able to do this. When you have mass appeal, then this means that your business will be more relevant to people so that your brand story will appear to the media. Publications need to ensure that content they're delivering to the audiences is relevant and engaging so they have broader appeal. The bigger audience that you can reach, the better. So what are you trying to achieve? It is brand awareness, a specific news announcement, it's relative about your product and the broader feature of your story. So make sure that you're really understanding that you're getting something out of it. Are you wanting the media to write about your product? Are you wanting them to hero you as a female entrepreneur? You really want to make sure that you've got an outcome and that you stick to it. Curating a media list. So once you've sort of got your hook and you've got your selling point, this is when you want to really do a deep dive into who your media is. It's time to create a list of media publications. And this is when you look into the who, what, when, where, why. So you're wanting to look at your target audience and really understand what they read. Are they female entrepreneurs? Are they regional women? Are they agriculture? Are they finance? Where are they based? Are they West Australian? Are they in the Farm Weekly? Are they in the Australian nationally? This is when you go and you do a deep dive. You buy the magazines, you look online, you go to LinkedIn, so you find the email of the journalist and you get that information right. And this is when you pop it in an Excel spreadsheet and you start to curate it. And with that, you'll have 3 types of leads. So number 1 is the instant hit. So these are the online news outlets and daily newspapers. So for WA, it's the West Australian, it's the Perth Now, 7 News, 10 News. These are all things, ABC News, ABC Radio, Triple M. These are all of the news outlets that are daily. And these are the ones where if you've got information that could potentially go out today, then you've got information that could potentially go out in the newspaper tomorrow, then this is what those instant hits are. Then you've got the medium lead. So there's weekly magazines, weekly newspaper lift outs, TV news, current affair programs, radio shows. So weekly magazines, for example, are all of those ones that slide in. The Farm Weekly, that's weekly. The Countryman, that's weekly. Newspaper lift outs, it's a travel magazine in the West Australian. TV news. So this could be a weekly show that you're specifically pitching to. It could be a big show like The Project, current affair programs, radio shows that have, long lead-in times. Then you've got longer leads. So this could be a Grazier magazine. This could be podcasts like Generation Ag. All of these are really great ones. And it could be specialized ABC programs. There's a huge amount of what's really important. So we've got to that point where we've got our media list curated. We're really happy with that. We know the direction of what we want to do. Now it's about curating that angle. The media is always hungry and journalists are always looking for a new story as they want to churn out more content and they want more interesting content. Journalists are constantly pitching stories and journalists are constantly pitched stories by brands and PR about what they're doing. But ask any journos about PR and they'll tell you that the majority of their pitch that they receive are not that great. So they're not read, they go under the wayside. So you want to start thinking like a journalist. And this can be really tough when you're not necessarily from a PR and journo background, but just even going to specific journalists that you like and start to actually read their stories. So what's making the news? What are interesting things that you could talk about? 60% of online journeys start online. With an online presence, you're able to actually develop those really good stories and navigating that. So it's really important to think about what journalists are on. So in agriculture at the moment, anything around harvest, anything around broadacre crops, really on trend. So you're wanting to look, how can you create a story that a journo will want to read that will be relevant to your audience, and really diving into that. Go and read your audience as well. If you've got a journalist and you want them to write your story, Google them, go and read a couple of their stories, see what their similarities are, see how you can create something and pitch something to them that they would be interested in with unique selling points. You can also look at holidays. So Christmas, obviously it's National Ag Day this month of November. You know, we could be looking at general holidays like Christmas gift guides, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, Christmas in July, all of those holidays and how they relate back to your product or potential service. For example, with the Farmers Across Borders Hay Run this year, we deemed it the Love Run because we did it the Valentine's long weekend. And, you know, that got coined across a couple of different media publications and that made the news online. So there's so many different things you can do like this that will actually really help curate more trending PR around what you're doing. Also looking at hot topics and hot trends. So if there's something particular happening in agriculture and it's something that you can get off the back of, that's really, really interesting. So obviously COVID was probably considered more a current event. Hot trends are more like things that happen in fads in food, or there's something like, you know, scrunchies, handmade scrunchies have been quite a hot trend for a while. It could be fashion, a hot trend in fashion. Somebody is doing something that is what a celebrity is doing, or it could be an influencer in the industry. Looking at that really does work too. And current events, obviously COVID-19 goes without saying, but now current events for agriculture, harvest. How can you relate something back to harvest? What does your story say about you and harvest, and what is this being curated? So having a look at these, brainstorm yourself, go holidays, what holidays relate to my product, hot trends, what hot trends relate to my product, current services, and see how you can navigate and create this story. We're moving on to how to write a media release, because you've got now your pitch, you've got your strategy, you've got your topic. Now it's how to actually put that into a release. So it's really important that you write a media release that actually sees the journalist. And this can be really difficult, but the media release is the official document that's got the who, what, when, where, and why, and everything you want to get out to your audience. So the number one thing that you want to do is you want to have a catchy headline in order to be successful. It's the first thing people will read, and based on this, they'll make their decision as whether they want to read the whole thing or not. You want to try and keep it short. In this way, it's easier to read, it looks more appealing, and it's great to make sure that you keep it short, sharp, and sweet so that it stays very newsworthy. This is often what you'll use to captivate somebody within your mail so that they reach you. So I'd really, really encourage that. And then once you've got that, you want to start with a bang with your intro and lead. So aim to answer as many of the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why, as possible. The second most important part of writing a release is about crafting the lead. This is exactly why the impatient ones will find the answer to the most important questions, including the 5 W's. What the news is about, who is involved, when and where it's happening, and why it's important. When writing this part, you make sure that you want to follow the mini-skirt rule, meaning that you should lead with enough to cover the essential, but short enough to keep them interested. Don't waste a journalist's time. You only have so much to pique their curiosity. Don't give all the details away at once. Then you've got credibility. It's really important that when you're developing media release that you have credibility behind what you're saying. If you're basing your media release on external sources, make them citable. That way you're becoming more credible in the eye of your audience, and it's essential with what you're doing to link legitimacy with your business, and it's not fake news. I don't recommend displaying the whole URL link in your citing of your source at the bottom. Just have an anchor text so it looks more natural. Essentials. Explain why your story is significant and provide more detail. Give your reader the essential details. And by details, we mean the basic information that is necessary to figure out why the press release is newsworthy. You don't need to write a novel, which is why I suggest do not have it any bigger than one A4 sheet of paper. They don't want you to write a novel. Just give a brief explanation and get the reporter excited about something they'll write about. My biggest tip for press release writing is to focus on how your product and service is helping others, because this helps people. It's journalists that this helps. It can help trigger their creativity if they want to write a bit more about the story. Reporters are always focused on their readers and what they're interested in. Sending a press release that is totally focused on you isn't going to cut it. Quotes. Give the release life, perspective, and add quotes. Every single release should have a quote and a statement in it. That is verbatim how it runs. If you're unsure, go and Google a few media releases and go and read through them and read about what you like and make sure that it's ticking off all of these boxes. They bring another perspective to text. So quotes can be easily make your text more interesting and readable, which is good enough reason to add to your release, and also allows for more credibility. Once you've got all of this information, it's great to look back, reread, and make sure you've not missed anything. It's a time where you actually want to make sure you're not overdoing it. Remember, sometimes less is more, and that's definitely the case when it is talking about a media release. A photograph speaks 1,000 words, and I like to include at least 1 or 2 photographs in every one of my media releases. In the old days, we used to just write a release. When I say in the old days, honestly, a couple of years ago, we used to just write a media release and send it out. Today, they have a lot more information. You want to have photos included, visual anchors, links, hyperlinks, everything. So technically, a journalist doesn't have to do anything else, and all the information's there. You also want to make sure that the contact information's there. You need to be reachable. So don't forget to add your contact details so the journalist can reach you or reach whoever else is supposed to be reached. It is an important part because they might want to ask you additional questions. They might need to have additional quotes. If you forget this part by chance, the release is basically a bit null and void. So make sure you definitely include this when you're talking about it. And once you've got this, in case you're thinking, asking yourself how to end the release, have a boilerplate. If you caught the journalist's attention and they keep reading until the end of the place, the most likely thing is that they are going to want the wrap up. The boilerplate is exactly this, where they'll find any information that's additional about the company, make it fun. It's really interesting. And this works as a way to actually wrap up the release, to actually get the journalists involved and interested, and it creates more credibility for you. Now it's time to double check, triple check. Please get somebody else to read over it. Media releases are stressful. If you do something wrong, journalists will just hit delete. It's pretty cutthroat. So yeah, it's really important that you do this. And these are questions to ask yourself. Does it contain all of the following things? So, quotes, contact information, the 5 W's. Have we included all the elements we've just spoken about? If so, check, move on. Is it actually newsworthy? Maybe get a couple of people to read it. Is this actually something people would want to be captivated by? Is it between 200 and 400 words? So like I say, just keep it to 1 page. Is the heading catchy? If the heading's not that catchy, perhaps create something else, do something different. Is it objective and not promotional? You really don't want to be selling. You just want to be creating awareness. And if the answer is yes, then you've got a great release to potentially go viral. Just remember, send it to the right journalist, preferably at the right time. And we'll talk a little bit about this further on. Formatting your release. This is very important. Now that we've covered the press release structure, let's focus on press release format. When it comes to press releases, it's actually the same as great food and amazing gifts. Even the outstanding ones given when lousy packaging lose their value. In the end, most of us are stimulated visually, and that's why the first impression really counts. How to formulate a press release then? Well, here are a number of ways that I like to see it. We really only PDF now, but there's a couple of options here. So a PDF press release is the very popular way, and although it looks the same on each device, it can have issues because sometimes some journalists may not be able to copy and paste it across to create their own story. Although a lot of the time now, if you are using Google Drive, you can actually open a PDF in a Word document and copy and paste it. So it doesn't have as many problems. Many people still use PDF, including myself. I think that it's a great way to use it. It's easy. People can read it on their phone without any glitches. And even if they're using a phone or a computer that doesn't have Word document, they can open it. Social media is obviously something that, and using your phone access is something that's really important. So obviously Word document needs to be considered here. Word document can be great because your journo can copy and paste exactly what's being said, but it can also be messy, which can lead to people changing and editing things. So it's something that I probably wouldn't encourage, but it's not the worst either. But you can easily save a Word document as a PDF when you go to save it without any stress. Active PR releases are great because they actually now mean that you can create a media release that has links and viability and vibrance through your website. So basically you can develop a blog that's a media release that actually has the capacity and ability to be online and have that clickability. So this is a really great way to actually get your potential journo quite encouraged early on, because you can have links to all your websites, links to all the information, and they don't need to go searching for anything, which is really, really good. So you've got your media release ready and you've got a PDF, you've got your media release. How do we pitch? Pitching doesn't have to be boring or serious. No one wants to read another snooze fest of an email. So don't be afraid to inject personality, humor, and make it fun. Subject line. Your aim here is to create a straightforward, concise, and engaging subject line that will entice the editor to actually open your email and read what you have to say. It's really that simple. You don't need to complicate it or overdo it, just short, sharp, and engaging. Keep your subject line concise. You only need to have a few characters in the subject line to get your point across. I sort of recommend never use more than 60 characters. Now, remember, all you need to do to get an editor to open your email is to have a shot. So you need to really entice them and make it interesting. Identify exactly what your email is in pursuit of. And you can go expert commentary, XXX story idea, XXX, or press release, XXX. We want to make sure that your email doesn't end up in the spam and junk file, right? So I've taken off using media release now, and I actually just use a captivating shorter version of what my media release subject is and utilize that. You don't want to use too many salesy words. Excessive use of capital letters or punctuation and using emojis and other formatting elements will send your emails straight to the trash or spam bin. So you really want to make sure you're direct, concise, and that people see it. Your email body. Okay, so you've got your press release written in your line. Now it's time to compose the email itself. It's really important with your email that you keep it professional. Now, if you don't know the journalist, that's okay. Please email them professionally and use proper etiquette. It should be really formal in terms of, hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. You could also use dear, that's fine, whatever works for you. One of the most hilarious responses that I ever heard from someone is that when they went rogue and emailed a DIY pitch to a journalist without consulting their PR professional first. And they said they thought that a hey might do the trick, just to thinking that they have a relationship. And that's not necessarily it. You want to make sure that you keep your professional contacts professional and make sure that it's witty, intelligent, refined, and that you're selling your brand to the journalists and that you actually do achieve the coverage for the pages. It's really important. But although you're keeping it professional, you want to personalize it. So if you want to really level up, a great way to do this is look at a journalist's work, which I mentioned before, and then casually drop in some references to it in your pitch, which could be a really great example to build up that rapport. For example, I was reading your article in Grazier magazine on XXX, and I thought it was really interesting perspective on how you portrayed their story, XXX. And that's a really great way to start connecting with these journalists and actually to really build rapport and that they see you've actually took the time. You could also start to follow them on social media. I think that's a really great way if they do put their professional work up. And that would be really, really great to see that you've built that rapport. Engaging with journalists on a personal level absolutely will make you stand out from the crowd. Number 3, identify exactly what you want. Always include the exact publication and section you want to use for your product and brand in the feature. A lot of journalists and editors work across multiple and different titles. For example, the Women's Day beauty editors also write the beauty pages for Who and TV Weekly. You need to mention exactly where and how you would like a product to be branded. For example, we would love our upcoming clients' high-res imagery featured inside Who magazine for your upcoming summer accessories feature. Now, this time you want to make sure that you're really clear on including who you want and make sure that you're including the right publication with the right journalist name. So go and do a LinkedIn stalk to see where they're actually working at. It really is an amateur way to not build a rapport with your journalist if you're making these sort of mistakes. So you want to triple check the pitch email because it's easy to make a mistake when you're doing 10, 15, 20 pitches in one day. It's exhausting. I get it. I've been there. I've made the mistakes. We all have. But when you're really wanting to stand out and you're not a PI and you haven't built those rapports, double, triple, quadruple check to make sure that's all perfectly, because it could be a long-term effect on your business that really sees success. Make your pitch timely and relevant. We discussed in the lead of various publications in the media that this is really important, that you want to pitch timely and relevantly. For example, you don't want a cutoff date of a certain magazine or podcast. So to ensure that everything you're pitching is timely and mannerly, make sure that when you're actually writing your media list up, that you actually write when they publish each week, month, when the new episodes go out for a podcast, so that you're not pitching on a day that doesn't make sense. It's really, really important. Keep it short. If there's anything less than a super long drawn out email, no dilly-dallying, please. Get to the point immediately, make it easy to read, only keeping a couple of sentences or a little bit more. Be direct, it's not rude, and you're just being smart and strategic, and it shows that you value the journalist's time and aren't going to bother them with your long-winded banter. Level up your release. Let me paint a picture to you of a dream PR scenario. We've got our media release, the videos, pictures, websites, assets all ready to go. And you've got that short and snappy killer copy ready to send off. The journalist responds quickly and says they'll run the story. They don't have to ask any follow-up questions or wait to send back for more info, photos, or data. They got everything they needed in the original email. The next day, the story goes up online. Great success. We want to hand the journalists everything they need, served up on a silver platter, making it super easy to slot your brand into their coverage. They are time poor, under intense pressure with tight deadlines, and need to get the job done. So here's some tips and tricks to level that up. Attach images. Attach the images to the email and make sure that the images have their file names, the products or the brands, and the specific prices within the images so that there can be absolutely no room for error. And the editor can just file the pictures away and make sure they don't have to scurry through the emails to find the details. They have everything they need and they don't need anything else. Never attach more than 3 images to a pitch email. This is mainly because the file size won't be too large, but to ensure that your press release doesn't get lost in the sea of images. Another option is to also attach a Dropbox or a Google Drive file so that there's not any extra stuff that they have to do. Additional content. Any additional imagery should be packaged up in a specific Dropbox or WeTransfer or a Google Drive to make sure that these are live links where the journalists can instantly develop and use these images for their story. URLs. Make sure all the URLs of your website and any social accounts so the journalists can click straight through are already there specifically for your brand. Make sure that you've got no needing to Google and that everything works well. Embedding an image directly into an email can be really great. You need to remember that you are one of gazillion brands or businesses pitching to an editor on a daily basis, and you're competing to actually engage with other PRs and businesses that have been there for a lot longer. Sometimes journalists don't have the time or can't be bothered to click on an attachment or a link. Embedding the image inside an email will entice them, immediately giving them more information and hopefully leaving them wanting more. Perfect. Tips for a killer pitch. A few quick and handy tips. If you roll out the same launch pitch, make sure you update each email with the correct journalist name, as well as changing the publication date and the relatively different target angles. Triple check this. Look, another one. We've all done it. We've all been there, but it's really important. Track your pitch through a working in progress file or some sort of a file that works well for you. Make sure that you're really, keeping on top of what you're doing across each different PR, so that PR pitch across each different journalist and publication so that you know what's happening. Do not be offended if you don't receive a response. There are thousands of PRs and businesses and clients and brands pitching stories. So it's very competitive and it's a really tough break, particularly if you're going to those bigger businesses and you need to have a tough skin and just try again. It takes a lot of time and effort. One really, really good tip is to do all the pitching for a large amount announcement on one day. Don't draw it out. Give some publications a competitive advantage over other. Even if it takes you all day, it's very important, and you don't want some outlets receiving the information late and getting annoyed that you have given their competitors preferential treatment. Now, another way to do this is by pre-doing it. So all the emails are scheduled to go out at Wednesday at 2 p.m. or whatever you decide. One really good tip is please don't pitch on a Monday because you get the worst response rate. People's inboxes are flooded after the weekend and things can easily get lost, particularly because you're only going to be one email. Think of yourself on a Monday. You are frantically trying to sort through everything from the weekend and set yourself up for the week. The last thing you want is any more information to process or think about. The best times to pitches, in my personal opinion, are on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, usually in the morning before 12:30 p.m. or on Thursday and Friday mornings for a follow-up. By the way, never send a journalist on email on a Friday afternoon unless it's urgent or in response, because I think that that's just not good etiquette. I personally don't think anyone should really send emails after 4 p.m. on a Friday to people about business, or either schedule it for a Monday. I think that that's a better way to do it. But yeah, just be really mindful of journalists, or unless it is a weekend opportunity, then, they're a weekend journalist, fine. But yeah, this is something that is really important to start building that rapport. And it's something that a lot of people don't think enough about. So really bring the humanity back into what you're doing. Don't stress if you don't get a response. Look, sometimes for clients will pitch thousands of people and get 2 responses. So prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It's so fine if you don't get a response from a journalist. Honestly, that's normal. Sometimes you won't even get a response from a journalist at all, and they'll still print your story. So make sure you've got your monitoring system and your Google alert going. They get thousands of emails a day. So unless your email is bang on and concise with what they're working on in that very moment, or you have a brilliant relationship with the journo, chances are you won't get a reply straight away. Most of the time, you might not get a reply at all. That's why it's really important to send a follow-up email a few days later. Don't ever view a follow-up as a last-minute attempt. It's not. Some people are genuinely super busy. Actually, all journalists are super busy and their inboxes are flooded. So they might have missed it. It might not be right at this time. So don't get disheartened. A lot of time, a follow-up is where you get your best responses. PR takes time. Whatever your expectations are of PR, please lower them. Be more aware. Never go in with huge expectations. Every single piece of press you secure for your brand or client is amazing and only leads to more press. The reason for this is that you're building brand awareness. Plus, you can promote this press coverage on your social media accounts, which is brilliant. Although I would say don't post it as an actual post it as an Instagram story or post the link to the story online. Plus, you can add a great piece of coverage into your press portfolio and media outlet logos on your website to boost your credibility. Just one of the things that press leads to. You will be lucky to get 5 responses back from all your pitching efforts. But again, this largely depends on what you're pitching and what your story is. And if you're reading if you're reading back from a journo and they said they're interested and you don't hear from them again for a couple of weeks, that's okay. You can re-pitch them again. The reality is it's going to be really tough to ever get wall-to-wall media coverage. And to get 5 responses in a new brand is amazing in the PR world. Honestly, 1 response is amazing. Even if it's 1 yes, any positive press is worth celebrating and giving yourself a pat on the back because it's a lot of hard slog. So you get that dream response. This is what it's going to be like. If this is a product and you've sent it to a journalist, they'll probably want to see it package it up. So package up a sample and send it down to your press post and press it out to them. It's important to never assume that an editor has the product in their hands and that they're instantly going to publish an article. Sending a sample never guarantees that they'll promote your product. In fact, they may try it and hate it. Terrifying, but true, I'm afraid. So once you have sent a product to a journalist, follow up an email about a week and a half later after they've received it to make sure that they've received it and they like it and that they've got feedback. They might give you some feedback. They might publish it. For all you know, it could be the beginning of you getting more press release and more coverage for your product. If you've followed this all correctly, and you've got your high-res images and you've pitched, you'll remind the journalist that you've got everything available so that when they have the opportunity, they can include your product or potential service within their journo story. So you might also get a try again next time, and that's okay. That could just be a thank you so much for this email, but we aren't looking for anything new at this time. That's great. It means you built some sort of a rapport with the journalist. So make sure with your emails in your Excel or whatever you set up that shows a working in progress, that you're able to track exactly what's happening and that you're able to build upon this to create more awareness and to create more business within your product or service online with PR. A few tricks for next time. If you ever run out of angles and ideas to pitch, there are a few little tricks that we use to get creative. Sometimes we go into Google News or just Google in general and Google some of our clients' competitors to see what press releases and press coverage they have received. We look into what media placement they've secured across a range of different mediums. We use this as inspiration to get a better understanding for our own clients, but to ensure that we're absolutely doing everything we can to get amongst our bigger competitors, which is totally doable. One of our best tips is back yourself in the corner so that you have no option but to come out swinging. And that's really what you need to do in PR. Other ways to reach your audiences is really making sure that you're getting that really good opportunity to make sure that all angles are utilized. So these are the best of those. Engage with thought leaders on social. A key for small businesses to gain credibility within your industry is to establish your own team of thought leaders or influencers in your space. As small business owners, there are probably people on social media who follow you because of what you're trying to achieve. Try to engage with these people on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. It will likely increase your visibility of your business and increase the awareness for your product or service. An influencer can be someone who is engaging with your brand or promoting with your brand, and also could potentially, on what your product or service is, entail a payment where the influencer gets something in exchange for their media contribution. The influencer might agree to post a couple of times on Instagram and write a blog about your company or your business with what your product or service is. This will depend on the contractual obligations, but it is such an underutilized space within the industry, and I highly recommend. Create a press kit. Whether it's a press conference, an interview, or an event, always have a press kit on hand. Your press kit should include your company's background, your brand story, a fact sheet, bios, high-res images, media contact details, and your products or services. This shows you have thought through things and are prepared for anything that potentially eventuates. Your press kit should be impactful enough for the media so that it intrigues and understands your company better. Create your own content that shares across the different channels and relevant hashtags. Another aspect of becoming a thought leader is creating original content that benefits your target audiences. Blog posts, case studies, webinars are great vehicles for establishing your credibility and expertise. Even better, these are assets that are easily shared via email and across social to ensure maximum visibility. The best way to learn is to snoop. See how other people in your industry are doing it. What do you like about them? What do you not like about it? How are people outside of your industry doing it? What will audiences find useful with what you're doing? What are you interested in? What emails do you like in your inbox? What emails do you not like in your inbox? In a digital world, we refer to content creation for the purpose of marketing and branding, such as content marketing. While it's not technically a new practice, it is a practice that is arguably replaced so many times by old SEO. Today, this is how you can be found online, and it is better and the most useful way to create content, and I highly recommend it. Another option is to respond to topics in a timely manner. A great way to establish relationships with reporters is to offer yourself as an expert to the comments on hot topics in the news. For instance, if you are a company that's looking to build a calendar for businesses, you would likely have an informed opinion on Google Calendar's app. Reporters are always looking for new experts to give opinion on stories which are great substance and build new angles. Another thing that is totally optimizable is hold a media event. The media is your go-to medium for giving great messaging. Hold a press conference or a media junket whenever you have something important to announce. Or if you've got a product or new service, great way if you've got the capacity. Hold events, really celebrate it, and invite people who are really going to be the key opinion leaders within your industry. These events will give the media a chance to ask questions in a way that a press release does not, thus helping build more robust story around your business, service, or company. Use this opportunity to build in some ways that journalists can take the time to have a one-on-one rapport built with you, with your customers, your partners, and your staff. This event could be one of the best things you do for your business, and I highly recommend. Another opportunity is to think local, particularly Triple R women. You have such great regional people. Major media such as national newspapers and TV can be difficult to attract. Your press release might be too small to make it in their media, or their competition could beat you out. Rather, target your local media. So even your small regional papers. So, the Kalgoorlie Miner, the Esperance Weekender, the Albany Advertiser, local radio, Triple M for breakfast. Local business can be really powerful too. So making sure that you're looking into these local opportunities at all costs. Include media releases on your website. Have a media or press release page for all press releases going out. So if they're ever lost in the mail or a media comes across your website, they can quickly go and see all of your press releases, all of your information, all of your company facts and history, so that they're really seeing the achievements of what you're trying to do. Don't forget your corporate and social responsibility. Include the work you do and the impact on your community. This will be a great opportunity to directly impact the public perception of your company or brand. So start showcasing your environmental work, ethical business practices, or philanthropy or community service. So important, such a great way to build rapport, and such an underutilized area to actually gain media attention. Focus on the long term and not the short term. I can't reiterate this enough. It's so important and it's so underutilized. Businesses are more conscious of the value of a lifetime customer and customer relationship manager. The key here is to recognize and keep your customers coming back and satisfied for long periods of time. And is so important rather than an immediate sale and profit. Likewise, treat the press as your customers. Don't place today's story above the long-term relationship. If the media say no and you've tried to convince them otherwise, letting go is advertising. Preserve the relationship so that the media's concern will continue to be friendly and receptive, and call when you have your next pitch available. Act ethically. Ethics in PR is everything. Never violate your code of ethics for PR for any of your business pursuits. The media in particular are better able to than others spot unethical behavior. If you try to pull a fast one on a media, such as offering a bribe, or chances are it will backfire. Good business ethics maintain your reputation, enhance your assets. People who trust you are most likely to do so with your business. Plan, plan, plan. For every outreach that you make, have a plan, go back to your PR strategy, and make sure that every potential intricacy and tactic is looked at to have success. Make your plan be designed explicitly through the key deliverables and that they are measured across the success of your strategy. Show your coverage. Getting good media coverage is good. Make sure your clients and prospects know how much coverage you're getting by sharing this on your socials and all of your website, and make it known that you're getting those credible sources. It is about building relationships. Your PR should focus on people who are already influenced and who are influencing your target customers. Look at people who have a lot of clout and that have built relationships. Help them understand your message and help their followers relate to your business. A successful relationship will help you build trust between your company and your customers. Building positive relationships with the right media outlet is essential to developing trust. If the relationship isn't already there, you won't reach the right audiences, no matter how many places you feature. I hope that has given you a really good scope on how important and how much potential you have to actually do PR for your business. And I really, really would love to hear and see you guys utilize this for your business. If you have any questions, you can always email marketing@triplernetwork.com.au. I'm always happy to answer your questions, or alternatively, send me a DM. There's my social handle. You'll see it there, livingaware.social. And yeah, good luck with pitching your own PR, especially leading into 2022. The sky is the limit. Thanks, guys.